And for our final story for this edition of the Rolling Stone, we just have to talk about this. And I do not think that people talked about this enough because then, of course, more stuff came down the pipeline and this story was immediately forgotten, which is kind of a shame. That is definitely one of the downsides of living in the digital era, especially with social media, because no sooner do people, whether on the right or the left, get outraged over one thing, then something else happens, and what everyone was originally outraged about gets immediately forgotten so that everyone can now focus on this new thing that just happened. And every now and then, of course, people, sometimes maybe a week or two, maybe even a month later, might send out a tweet or do an Instagram story saying, hey, remember, so-and-so said this, or this happened, or this is what they really think of you, blah, blah, blah. But no, but the outrage is gone. Okay, people are like, oh yeah, that's right, and then everyone kind of sink back into lethargy until, the next outrage happens, which of course in our world, and because again of social media, should be, if it hasn't happened in 10 minutes, then don't worry. Well then, actually, no. If it hasn't happened in 10 minutes, you should worry, because maybe, who knows, the apocalypse has happened, or the rapture, and you're the only one left in the world, and maybe that's why nothing has come down the pipe. But having said all that, this story is from the Washingtonian. And let me just read this opening paragraph of this story. On Monday night, CNN aired Fight for the White House, Joe Biden's Long Journey, a special program on the Democrat nominee's career that included a popular photograph of Biden and one of his sons at what looks like a sports stadium. It's not clear whether the son pictured is Hunter or Beau, who died in 2015. In the original photograph, which Biden himself posted on social media earlier this year, the kid pictured is wearing a maroon hat with the logo of the Washington football team, which until recently used the Native American slur, Redskins, for its name. In the image that CNN includes in its documentary, the team logo has been entirely removed. In other words, the photograph, which has been posted numerous times, either traditionally or digitally, again, thanks to social media, the picture that has been shared and printed and shown again and again and again was altered to make the picture acceptable for modern sensibilities. Because, of course, this is how the logic goes. Joe Biden is running against Donald Trump. Donald Trump is Orange Man bad. He's Hitler again. He's a fascist. He's a dictator. He's a tyrant. He's a rapist. He's an evil POC, right? Or actually POS, I should say. POC is a person of color now. That is our new term for them. Etc., etc. So that means that Joe Biden is the paragon of virtue, and a paragon of virtue would never, ever, ever, ever dream of associating with anything that was racist, sexist, homophobic, etc., etc. And he certainly wouldn't put one of his own sons in a racist piece of merchandise. So, the historical record has to be amended in order to fit our new reality. Now, to continue with this story from the Washingtonian, Fox News first reported on the edited image yesterday, attributing the blame to the news network, but CNN says it did not tamper with the photograph. As with any biographical documentary, we ask the subject for photos or videos. A CNN source tells Washingtonian via email, we received this picture and many others from the Biden campaign, and any additional inquiries should be sent their way. Future airings will include the original photo. Reached by Washingtonian, a Biden campaign spokesperson said that the campaign removed the logo for copyright reasons, which it says is common for campaigns to do. Bollocks to CNN and the Biden campaign both. First of all, as the Washingtonian story said, okay, this photograph was very popular. It was very popular. People have shared it. People recognize it. if we were going to use the word iconic, it is an iconic photograph of Joe Biden and either Hunter or Bo when it looks like 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 at the most. And the Washington Redskin logo is very prominent, okay? The little kid, kind of Joe Biden's kind of looking down like this, and the kid is looking right towards the camera. And so the front of his head is clearly visible in the photograph. You can clearly see the logo. And I'm bringing this up to say that it's not something that's off to the side. You can just see a little piece of it. So it's not like one of those things where someone has to point it out to you first before you realize it, and only after that do you see it every time. It's invisible to normal viewers until it's pointed out to them. It's not like this at all. It's very prominent. So you're telling me that a quasi-iconic photograph of Joe Biden and one of his sons was tampered with? And CNN just decided, looks good to me, run it. Bollocks. Bollocks. They knew what they were doing. And as for this weak excuse from the Biden campaign. We always remove logos just for copyright reasons. The Washington Redskins changed their names. Okay? There shouldn't be any problem with now showing the logo in the first place. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but even if that wasn't the case, we all know that copyright laws is not what the Biden campaign is worried about. Do you honestly think that anyone, like a football team, something prominent in the culture, is going to get after the Biden campaign for a copyright infringement over a symbol that is now considered racist? I mean, my gosh, they would be crucified in the public square as soon as anyone uttered an idea, but as soon as anyone proposed the idea. In fact, anyone in an organization which proposed doing such a thing wouldn't even get the chance to be crucified, because all of his co-workers, all of his associates would probably kill him themselves before he could tweet about it and send the whole company down in flames. So bollocks to both of them. Bold-faced lies from CNN and the Biden campaign, as we would expect from them. But there's something even more here. And this is the point that I really wish people had harped on social media while it was in our conscience, while it was in our personal zeitgeist almost. And I want to read to you a quote from 1984. And I can't remember if I have quoted this passage before here on the channel or not. If I'm repeating myself, mea culpa. But this is from 1984. And this is when O'Brien, the party man, is talking to our protagonist, Winston Smith. When Smith has been arrested, he is being tortured in the Ministry of Truth. And this is what O'Brien says. Every record has been destroyed or falsified, every book rewritten, every picture has been repainted, every statue and street building has been renamed, every date has been altered. And the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. That is actually one of the themes of 1984, and it is actually a cruel irony that Orwell is bringing up, because in the book, the protagonist, Winston Smith's job had been to rewrite history. He's being tortured in the Ministry of Love. If I said Ministry of Truth before, my fault. He's being tortured in the Ministry of Love. He worked, however, for the Ministry of Truth, and it was his job basically to rewrite history every day, to change the past so that it would not embarrass the present, and therefore not embarrass the party. That was his job. And now that is being shoved into his face. That is exactly what we have today, gang. That is exactly what we have today, because it was done right in front of our noses with that logo, with a quasi-iconic picture. And CNN and the Biden campaign both lied about it. Now, I want to take this a step further, however, because that now can be done by practically anyone. It used to be that it took, some serious equipment and some know-how to doctor photographs. When Joseph Stalin was doctoring photographs so that people who were, people who had been discovered to be traitors to the Marxist revolution, to communism, to the Soviet Union, i.e. to Stalin himself, which means, hey, I'm not aboard on every single thing that you say. When Stalin doctored photographs to take out people who had been executed and socially been made social pariahs, because of course Comrade Stalin wouldn't dream of associating with people like that, that took a little power, okay? Your average man on the street in Moscow wasn't going to be able to doctor photographs. Today, that has changed. Now today, anyone who has a smartphone and or a laptop, which means pretty much everyone, and the right software and the right equipment, and it's the right software, the right know-how, which has actually today become pretty cheap, anyone can doctor photographs. And there are different grades of professionalism to it. You can do a really, really crummy doctoring so that a lot of people will figure out, yeah, this is doctored. But again, you pay for the higher end stuff, you hone your craft, anyone can rewrite history, which makes us all, in a sense, little gods, little demigods, little fallen angels, if you want to, little demons who can, recreate history so that our own personal lives, our own subjective experiences will be the truth. That would be bad enough if that's where we just wanted to leave it off. But now think about this. In order to have a society, there needs to be a strong element of trust. You can't have a society where you're paranoid that your neighbors are going to gang up on you, murder you, rape your wife, steal your cows, and burn down your house. Okay, you can't, because of course you can't cooperate with them. That is part of what makes a civilization, cooperation, which is based on trust. No, I'm pretty certain that my neighbor isn't going to gather a mob tonight and kill me to steal everything I have. When that trust is gone, when you think that all of your neighbors are out to get you, and consequently all of your neighbors think the same thing about you, you don't have that. All you have are a group of little islands who might be sharing the same space, might be doing business with each other just for sheer necessary survival, but that's all that you have. You have survival. You don't have advancement. You don't have progress. You don't have accomplishments. Just getting through another day becomes an accomplishment. And for a civilization, that's not enough. There has to be an element of trust. When someone says something, we have to be able to, for the most part, assume that they are telling the truth, especially if we have no previous knowledge of this person. It's vital. It's one of the vital cornerstones of a civilization. But now that all of these elements have been thrown in together, the ability to doctor the past, and now the sheer politicization that we are now living in, where getting the other side, okay, is worth more than anything else. And now, on top of that, a 1619 project mentality, which says that there is no objectivity in history. Nicole Hannah-Jones, the brains behind the project, said so herself on Twitter. There is no objectivity here. We're reframing history, which then justifies you in rewriting history however you see fit. That is going to make things like what happened here with the Biden photograph become more and more prominent. And when that happens, then anything that anyone says, anything that anyone does will not be trustworthy. It is going to have to go through a vigorous verification process. Instead of assuming that, everyone is telling us the truth, we are going to have to assume that everyone is lying to us. And even if they have photographs, we are going to have to assume that the photographs were doctored and that they're just another part of this elaborate ruse, this elaborate hoax, in order to advance their personal goals, their personal ideas of history, progress, and what the country should look like. And then, like I said, you don't have a country, you're not countrymen anymore. You might be sharing the same space, you might be living in the same geographical area known as the United States, but an American culture, an American civilization will be dead. And I think on that jolly note, I am calling it quits here, gang. So have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay free. I'll chat at you later. Ciao.